Hey everyone, Haskaha here. I've had a few people on the RSI forums, on the Star Citizen subreddit, and in the comment section of my videos ask what my controller setup is like. And when I say dual sticks, it seems to bring up more questions, and a few people have even asked me to make a video to show how I use my two flight sticks together. So that's what I'm hoping to accomplish with this video. But first, a couple of disclaimers. First, I am in no way suggesting that my setup is superior or unique in any way. It just happens to be what works best for me and I find a lot of fun. Second, I am also well aware of the fact that I am not the best pilot. There are many other players much better than I am. As I often say, a lot of Haskahas have died to bring you this footage. Third, and since this game is still in active development, things change, gameplay mechanics are added, buttons are added, features are added. I tend to go back and tweak my setup and my controls and my buttons almost every patch, maybe every other patch. So the point is, this will undoubtedly change many, many times. And fourth, this isn't going to be a review or recommendation of peripherals. I'm not going to go too in-depth into the particulars of each of my sticks. I'm just simply trying to explain how I use them. I also want to mention before I start going into this that a major concern I had about using dual sticks was the fact that your left-hand stick, in order to go full throttle or any throttle forward, you have to hold the stick in that position. So if you want to go 100% thrust for any length of time, you have to hold the stick in that position. Because it's a flight stick, it always wants to snap back to center. A dedicated throttle peripheral won't do that. It'll hold its position wherever you set it at, and you can take your hand off and maintain that thrust. I wanted to make sure I had the option to take my hand off my left-hand throttle stick, push it to the side, and fly with only one stick, say for long journeys. Make sure to check the description below for an outline of how I have my controls mapped, and links to some of the software that I use. I'll also have timestamp links to key sections of this video, so that you can easily skip ahead or re-watch portions that you want to. So with my dual sticks, I have fine analog control over pitch, roll, yaw, strafing, and throttle to some extent, which I'll explain in a bit. In my right hand, my main hand, I have my CH Fighterstick. The y-axis is mapped to pitch, so I pull back, I pitch up, I push forward, I pitch down. And I have my x-axis mapped to roll. A lot of people playing space flight sims will tell you that it makes much more sense to map the x-axis to yaw, which I agree does make more sense, but the roll is ingrained in my head from playing combat flight sims in the 90s, World War II fighter plane games. So that's what feels natural and comfortable for me. And now over to my left hand, which has the Thrustmaster T16000M. I have the y-axis mapped to strafe, forward and backward. So when I push forward on the stick, I strafe forward, and when I pull backward, I strafe backward, which is in effect forward throttle and reverse throttle. And I've mapped yaw to my x-axis here on my left hand. And the T16000M also has a x-rotational axis, a twist axis, the handle twists, to which I have mapped lateral strafe, left and right strafing. Traditionally, an x-rotational twist axis is used for rudder control, yaw, in an atmospheric flight sim. I put yaw on the x-axis because it has a wider swing which gives me more precise control over yawing, and that covers my analog axis control, which if you've noticed doesn't cover vertical up and down strafing. I decided that yaw, lateral strafing, and fine throttle control was much more important to me than vertical strafing. But that doesn't mean I don't have it bound. For the button mappings, I'll start with my CH Fighterstick in my right hand, my main hand. The trigger is mapped to fire weapon group 1. The red button at the bottom front of the stick where your pinky rests is to fire weapon group 2. The red button on the top right side of the stick where your index finger can reach I have mapped to my flight mode toggle, which lets me switch between SCM, precision, and cruise modes quickly. And the last red button near the top of the stick mixed in with the various hats I have bound to fire weapon group 3, but I have yet to actually create a weapon group 3 and use this button. The 8-way hat on the top of the stick is mostly unused right now. Pulling the hat down will show the rear view camera. The concave 4-way hat just below the 8-way hat is my targeting hat. Up targets what's in the reticle, left cycles through friendly targets, right cycles through hostile targets, and down targets nearest hostile. The convex four-way hat just below the red button on the top of the stick controls my missiles and countermeasures. Up locks missiles, down fires missiles, left cycles countermeasures, and right fires countermeasures. If I'm in the heat of a dogfight and I have a missile lock or incoming missile warning, I find myself rocking my thumb back and forth left and right on this button a lot. The four-way hat halfway up the left side of the stick I have bound to strafing. Left and right is for lateral strafing, and forward and backward is for vertical strafing. But because each direction on the hat is either on or off, I can't do something like strafe up at 50% thrust. It's either 100% or 0%. And yes, the lateral strafing on this hat is redundant because I have lateral strafing bound to the X rotational axis of my left stick. It's also worth mentioning that anywhere I've bound strafing, I bind it in decoupled mode and in coupled mode, so that when I do switch to decoupled mode, it's already set and it's the same exact keys. Not pictured here is the throttle wheel, or the Z-axis, which I have bound directly to throttle. If at any point I want to take my hand off my left stick, which controls my throttle, I can basically use this wheel to set and forget my throttle. A nice side effect of this is that the throttle wheel sets kind of like a base throttle that the strafing forward and backward overrides. I can set the throttle wheel at say 50%, and if I decide I need to go faster or slower or even reverse, I can do that using my left-hand stick. As soon as I let that left-hand stick go back to center, my throttle wheel brings my ship to a constant 50% thrust forward. And on my T16000M, I have the trigger bound to boost. I have the number 2 button under your thumb bound to afterburner. I have the number 3 button on the top left as my push to talk for mumble and other voice over IP applications. And the number 4 button on the top right is to toggle coupled and decoupled mode. With the four-way hat on the top, I have up bound to zoom in and down is zoom out. But I currently have nothing bound to left and right. The 6 buttons on the left side of the base control landing, quantum drive, and match target velocity is also there. And I currently have nothing bound to the 6 buttons on the right side of the base. In addition to my 2 flight sticks, I always use voice attack and sometimes some head tracking. Voice attack is a piece of software that will allow you to create custom voice commands that trigger key presses, macros, launch programs, and all sorts of stuff. For head tracking, I don't have Track IR, but I've dabbled with the free versions like Face Track No IR. But lately I've been testing having a smartphone strapped to my head and using the sensors within it to translate into head tracking. And I'm pretty happy with the results so far, I just don't use it all that often. But those are outside the scope of this video and I'm not going to cover them here, just wanted you to be aware of them. Here is one of my favorite maneuvers to pull when being pursued by someone. I'll find an asteroid, preferably a bunch of asteroids clumped together. I'll fly near a large one, as close as I possibly can, and either strafe and slide around it or bank pitch up and slide around it, but the goal is to get the asteroid between me and my pursuer. Once I feel like I've accomplished that, as soon as I'm rounding the other side of the asteroid, I will spin around in coupled mode, and while I'm doing this I'm moving my left stick from full forward strafing to full backward strafing and applying boost to continue the momentum moving me away from the asteroid, but now I'm facing the asteroid and my pursuer. They will round the asteroid trying to chase me, and I will unleash my guns, hopefully have missile lock at this point, launch a few missiles as they're heading directly towards me. There are a handful of other videos on YouTube about dual stick setups in Star Citizen. I highly recommend you search for them, find them, watch them, try them out, and find what works best for you. And like I said, I am always tweaking my setup. If you have one you are especially fond of, I'd be very interested to hear about it and try it out. Just drop me a comment with the details below. And if there's anything in this video that I got wrong or didn't explain thoroughly enough, or that you want to hear about, let me know. And that's it. I'm going to stop rambling now. This video ended up being a lot longer than I had imagined. I'll leave you with a few more minutes of me dogfighting in a squadron battle with the Flightstick Overlay in the corner and my open mic during the game so you can hear any voice commands I used. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Missile locked. Proximity alert. Head. Shields recharging. Missile locked. Shields recharging. Proximity alert. Head. Kill. Contact. Begin scan. Proximity alert. Head. Proximity alert. Aft. Contact. Begin scan. Begin scan. Contact.
Target
Shields
nearest hostile.
Shields recharging. Contact. Begin scan. Contact. Missile lock. Contact. Begin scan. Shields up. Contact. Begin scan. Danger. System overheating. Danger. System overheating. Begin scan. Contact. Missile lock. Shields recharging. Danger. System overheating. Missile high. Danger. System overheating. Shields up. Shields recharging.
That was pretty.
Contact.